On a rainy night, Jack found himself in a local bar, trying to escape the loneliness of another business trip by his girlfriend, Sarah. There, he met a man named Mike who seemed strangely familiar with Jack's favorite places. The conversation flowed, and a casual photo of Sarah on Jack's phone revealed the shocking truth. Mike also believed he was her boyfriend. From there, a web of lies began to unravel, and Jack discovered that his girlfriend was leading a double life, betraying him with Mike while manipulating the feelings of both men. That rainy Friday night, Jack felt the weight of loneliness heavier than usual as he watched the rain beating against the windows of his home. Sarah had gone on another of her frequent business trips, and he couldn't help but feel abandoned, even though he should have been accustomed to it. Determined not to brood over his thoughts at home, he put on his coat and headed to the local bar, a cozy little establishment he had been frequenting since college. Sitting at the bar, he ordered his favorite whiskey, an aged single malt, and as the bartender prepared his drink, his eyes scanned the environment, eventually resting on a stranger next to him, a man with a friendly smile who seemed to have many stories to tell. The man next to Jack, who introduced himself as Mike, had an air of familiarity that intrigued him. He commented on the small details of the surroundings with surprising authority, mentioning local restaurants and bars with a precision that made it seem like he was also a regular there. As they conversed, Jack noticed how Mike seemed to know not only the places, but also the little stories that only the regulars would know. This made Jack feel curiously connected and yet uncomfortable, as if he were talking to an old friend who knew too much. Determined to test a suspicion that had grown in his mind, Jack pulled out his phone, opened the photo gallery and scrolled through the images to show Mike a casual photo of Sarah. Observing Mike's reaction carefully, he saw the brief flash of recognition before Mike tried to mask it with a neutral expression, but it was too late to go back. "Yes, I know her very well," Mike said finally, with a voice that carried the weight of a secret. The atmosphere of the bar seemed to change as Mike began to reveal his history with Sarah. He spoke with brutal honesty, as if he needed to share his burden. He told Jack that he had met Sarah at a business conference more than a year ago, and that since then, they had developed an intense and emotional relationship. Mike believed that Sarah was single, describing how she spoke of a friend named Jack, whom he assumed was just a longtime colleague. With every word from Mike, Jack felt a mix of disbelief and pain, as if each detail was a blow struck against his reality. He listened, almost hypnotized, as Mike detailed encounters that coincided with Sarah's business trips, moments she had described to Jack as late meetings or dinners with clients. Jack struggled to maintain his composure, his mind trying to piece together the painful puzzle he never wanted to assemble. After the startling revelation at the bar, the night dragged heavily for Jack. Mike, sensing Jack's state of shock and sadness, offered to drive him home, a kindness that Jack reluctantly accepted, still processing the betrayal. During the drive, the rain increased, marking the rhythm of the night with its constant drumming against the car windows. The interior of the vehicle was a sanctuary of silence, only the sound of the wet road beneath the tires filling the space between them. Jack stared out the window, his unfocused eyes not really seeing the water trickling down the glass. His mind was in turmoil, alternating between the pain of the betrayal and the shock of the discovery. Mike occasionally glanced over at him with concern, but maintained his own silent anguish. At each traffic light, the red glow seemed a palpable reminder of Jack's broken heart, throbbing painfully with the reality that his life was now irreversibly altered. The next day, Jack's emotional hangover was almost tangible. He awoke with the cold determination of someone who decides to face the truth, no matter how painful. The house was silent, the memories of Sarah in every corner, like ghosts whispering betrayal. With a plan in mind, Jack began to collect evidence of Sarah's infidelity. He sifted through old messages, call logs, and even credit card statements that suggested secret encounters. The more he discovered, the deeper the abyss of deception seemed to be. He assembled a detailed dossier, each piece a fragment of the puzzle that made up Sarah's double life. Despite the pain, there was a relief in knowing the truth, a cutting clarity that prepared him for the inevitable confrontation. He knew the next step would be decisive, but he now felt armed with the truth, ready to face whatever came next. The dinner that Jack prepared to confront Sarah was meticulously planned, each detail a piece in the setting of an inevitable confrontation. When Sarah arrived, she noticed the strangely formal atmosphere of the dining table, lit only by candles that cast soft shadows on the walls. Jack served the wine with a studied calmness, his movements precise and controlled. During the meal, he calmly began to reveal what he knew. With each accusation, Sarah tried to interrupt, her words stumbling between denials and flimsy excuses. But Jack, armed with months of exposed lies, did not allow himself to be swayed by emotions. He presented the evidence, messages, call logs, receipts. Sarah, finally seeing that there was no escape, relented, tears streaming freely as she confessed not only the infidelity, but also the confusion she felt about her feelings. The revelation brought no relief to Jack, only a bitter resolution that something precious had been irreparably broken. After the revealing dinner, Sarah left, leaving Jack alone with the echo of her words and the vastness of the silence that now permeated every corner of the house. Jack walked to the living room, where the soft light of the lamp seemed to try to warm the chill that had settled within him. He spent hours there, sitting in his favorite armchair, reliving moments that had once seemed full of love, but were now tainted with doubt. He thought about how every smile of Sarah's, every touch, every word spoken in the past might have been a lie. The night wore on, and with it, the loneliness deepened. Jack wondered how he could ever regain trust in someone again, how he could ever open his heart without the fear of being betrayed. The hours passed, and Jack remained motionless, lost in thought, until the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the curtains, promising a new day, even though his heart was still trapped in the darkness of the night. In the days that followed, Jack sought support to deal with the whirlwind of emotions that the confrontation with Sarah had awakened. He opened up during sessions with his therapist, a safe space where he could explore the depth of his pain without judgment. Jack spoke about how he felt betrayed, not only by Sarah, but by the life they had thought they were building together. With each session, he began to understand that his pain was valid, but that it should not define his future. The therapist helped him recognize patterns of emotional dependency that Jack had ignored, and they worked together on strategies to rebuild his self-esteem and emotional independence. Jack learned to acknowledge his feelings, to accept them without allowing them to drown him, and with each small step, he felt closer to reclaiming his life. While Jack found his way through therapy and the support of friends, Sarah faced her own journey of self-discovery. She had temporarily moved to a friend's house while trying to organize her thoughts and emotions. Recognizing the devastating impact of her actions, Sarah sought professional help to deal with her difficulties in maintaining commitments and her tendency to manipulate situations to her advantage. In therapy sessions, she explored the reasons behind her behavior, learning about the origin of her insecurities and how they had shaped her decisions. Over time, she began to better understand her motivations and work consciously to alter the destructive patterns that had harmed her most intimate relationships. Sarah was determined to become a better person, not only for herself, but also as an act of reparation towards those she had hurt. Over the months, Jack felt a gradual change within himself. Therapy helped him see things from a new perspective, no longer as a victim of betrayal, but as someone with the capacity to overcome and learn from his experiences. He began to invest more in his passions, resuming old hobbies and discovering new interests. Social interactions, which had once seemed burdened with distrust, now became easier and more genuine. Jack discovered an inner strength he didn't know he possessed, finding peace in the acceptance that although he couldn't change the past, he had full control over shaping his future. He resolved that it was time to close this painful chapter, not with bitterness, but with gratitude for the lessons learned and the new perspective on life that emerged from the ashes of his former existence. Jack's final decision to send a message to Sarah was marked by an emotional clarity that only time and self-knowledge can bring. He typed the words carefully, each one chosen to convey not only the end of their relationship, but also the beginning of his own journey of healing. "I hope you find peace and truth in the path you have chosen to follow," he wrote, a farewell that carried both a blessing and a resolution. After sending the message, Jack felt as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He was ready to move forward, open to new experiences and to people who would value his presence as much as he valued himself. The painful memories of the betrayal slowly gave way to a feeling of hope and anticipation for the future. And Jack allowed himself to smile, knowing that of all the stories he had lived, the most important one was the one he chose to write from now on. And so what would your reaction be if you were in Jack's place? Discovering betrayal is already devastating, but knowing that you were deceived twice and that your girlfriend manipulated both you and the other person is certainly a hard blow. Leave your thoughts in the comments about how you would handle this situation. And of course, if you enjoyed following this emotional twist, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our future stories full of emotion and surprises. Until next time, where we'll explore new dilemmas and human adventures.